Thanks so much for staying with us. Despite the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions signing off on a wage increase from the government, public school teachers are looking to head back to the negotiating table. Delegates of the Jamaica Teachers Association voted on the wage package at a special conference in Kingston today. With the details, here is Irvin Forbes.
The teachers put regular Saturday activities aside to attend a special delegates conference at the Wolmer's Boys School. Perhaps in keeping with the significance of the location, National Hero Circle, they were ready to make their voices heard in no uncertain manner. They strongly rejected the offer of a 16% increase on basic salary. They also rejected the proposal to extend the negotiating cycle from 2 to 4 years. Of the 352 accredited delegates who voted, 313 voted to reject the offer, while 37 voted to accept.
The conference in no uncertain terms has mandated us to communicate with government that the claim was rejected, and so our next move is to communicate this rejection to the government. At the earliest possible time, I have no doubt that maybe by Monday we will write to government to officially inform them of the decision of the members.
The teachers have previously rejected offers from the government. Even with reports that some benefits were offered as sweeteners, many of the educators remain militant about locking down classrooms to press the demand for an improved salary offer.
We cannot guarantee normalcy in the system, but again, like we went to the membership to take this decision, all the decisions revolve around the membership. And so, yes, we will not be able to guarantee normalcy because the teachers are living, to say the least.
Irvin Forbes, CVM Live.
There was yet another earthquake on the Rock today. A light earthquake was felt at 1:53 p.m. Preliminary details from the earthquake unit are the epicenter was approximately 10 kilometers south of St. Margaret's Bay in Portland. The quake had a magnitude of 4.0 and a focal depth of 8.7 kilometers. Now, among the places where persons reported feeling the shaking were Meadowbrook, Jacks Hill, Barbican and Beverly Hills in the corporate area, Portmore, Old Harbour and Spanish Town in St. Catherine, as well as Port Morant in St. Thomas. Of course, the quake was also felt right here at CVM on Constant Spring Road. The police in South Lamar are calling on the people they serve to get serious about the issue of illegal guns and ammunition because they are determined to reduce the numbers coming into the parish.
Too many guns and ammunition in Savlamar in the hands of who Inspector Coy Williams describes as mindless young men equals illegal activities, with the use of these illegal weapons entering the parish by various means.
We are close to the coastline, so that's one entry point. And then, you know, there's migrating criminals. So, and as we know, there's always the latches scamming, which these players also think that as long as they're into that game, they should acquire firearms and ammunition to defend their turf.
March 1 was a good start for the proactive investigation team in Westmoreland, which recovered an AK-47 wrapped in black plastic with a 9mm magazine during a patrol in an area known as Coffee Walk in the Delftland community. The police say they spotted a group of men who ran upon their approach, and while the youngsters outran them, a search yielded the rifle and then majority of the ammunition, which included 52.45 cartridges hidden in a white plastic bucket.
44 9mm rounds, 27 12-gauge cartridges, 41 7.62 rounds.
Based on the influx of weapons, the police continue to reach out to the law-abiding citizens to play their role.
The High Command of Westmoreland and the police in general is adamant that this year we're going to double our efforts in removing the illegal firearms off the streets of Westmoreland. We want to make Westmoreland a place where you can live, where you can work, where you can play, and where you can raise your families again. We crave your indulgence.
2 students were injured in a knife attack at the Ferncourt High School late this week. 1 boy is still hospitalized. Now, while the police continue their investigations, plans are in place to hold talks with not only the school but parents as well.
A boy got stabbed at school. I think he got stabbed in his neck. Oh Lord. His neck and other parts of his body.
Among the wounds to that teenager, a punctured lung. CVM Live understands he is still in hospital, while the second boy, who allegedly did the stabbing and who was also stabbed, was treated and released. However, our newsroom understands he had to be reassessed for the wound to his neck on Friday, and following observation, he was released into the custody of his parent, a mother. As a result of the early morning tension at Ferncourt High on Thursday, school was on a lockdown, we were told. However, acting commanding officer for the parish, SSP Michael Smith, explained that investigators are probing a case and a cross case in that both boys were injured. Several sharp implements were confiscated, similar to the knives used by the boys.
Knives, machetes, copper machete, scissors, and those are some of the weapons that were found on the school compound. So a total of 10 the police recovered.
Meanwhile, the officer adds that statements are being collected from both parties and that a team from the Community Safety and Security Branch as well as the Operations Unit visited the school on the day in question.
The information I received in the afternoon was that things were brought under control, but we believe that more intervention they are needed for that particular school. The CDA was contacted. The Member of Parliament came yesterday to give some support, and we will be having meetings with the principals and staff at that school.
It's alleged the boys linked to the disquiet are involved in a long-standing feud. The senior officer says he has started his checks and plans to act.
There has been incident there before, and at this time I think an intervention is needed from the police, to look at this structure, to look at what's happening there and see the type of intervention that's needed to deal with some of the issues that might be taking place there.
Allegations were also raised concerning several boys who were taken from the school compound.
Then trim him. He come down to the station, and when he come back up to the school, all his hair gone.
Of course, CVM Live Sunday will have more on that allegation. A consultant psychiatrist is calling for parents to be more aware of changes in their children's behavior, as they may be indicators they are leaning to crime and violence. CVM Live's Khadija Thomas tells us more.
Consultant psychiatrist Dr. Jeffrey Walcott says a child getting lower grades in school should not be overlooked. He says parents must play their roles by monitoring their children because certain trends can lead to violent behavior.
A child should not be stabbing another child with a pencil or fighting every single day that they're in school. This is not normal childhood behavior, and these are things that need to be addressed by a professional. So we have to pick them up for what they are, that they are indications that there's something psychologically or psychiatrically has gone wrong with this child.
He adds that the relevant stakeholders have already taken steps to curb this behavior in our nation's children.
Violence in school was a huge problem in the early 2000s, 95, 2000. In fact, in 2010, there were over 1,000 episodes of violence in schools. The Ministry of Education took a forward-thinking approach where they created a behavioral modification committee to evaluate empirically based interventions, and they selected a number of interventions and implemented them both in the primary and the high school level. And over the 5 years, the number of incidents of violence in schools has fallen to almost less than 200.
Walcott says this was presented by the Education Ministry, which has been able to address the problem of violence in schools by using evidence-based data. So we don't hear anything about that data. We don't hear anything. What we do is we see the 1 or 2 videos that when you do have an incident in schools, it's no front page news. But I think we need to stop being ridiculous and stop being the same as the people putting all these horrific pictures on social media. Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
National Insurance Scheme pensioners are to receive an increase in the amount they take home. So says Minister of Labour and Social Security Shahini Robinson, who was prompted on the issue in Parliament on Thursday by opposition spokesman Horace Daly.
Provisions have been made in the budget of the fund for the increase this year, so we're just waiting on the last draft, the last report from the actuary.
Could you say it?
So that we can
provisions
make the final
are
decision.
made
yes.
From the National Insurance Fund to increase the
for the
NIS pension.
18-19 budget to increase the NIS pension.
Oh, in the public bodies book, you didn't mention anything about it.
So it will be taken care of.
Thank you.
The minister's intention to pilot the issue through the next sectoral debate pending the report of actuaries was again confirmed.
Will you announce the increase to our NIS pensioners when you come to speak or before?
I hope.
Don't prod the witness.
I don't want to say definitively, but I think that when by the time I come to speak, it should be ready.
I'm saying because these NIS pensioners should have the first call on the fund. They are the ones who contributed. They are at the bottom, and therefore we have to find a way for them to catch up.
Absolutely.
We have to make this adjustment. With every day, every program you hear on the radio, people talk, when will my NIS pension be increased?
Yeah.
Executive Director of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, Cordell Green, says the Commission has to be rethinking its approach to regulation and regulatory philosophy as the media landscape transforms. Speaking with CVM Live recently, Mr. Green said the BCJ has made recommendations to the government as a regulatory framework now has to take content into consideration.
A period that is undergoing significant disruption and transformation brought about by a range of exponential technologies, some of which we are just on the cusp of discovering. Artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, which will completely change how we experience the world in which we live and how we experience media.
He says the regulatory approach has to include content, which continues to flow across several platforms that may not be captured by technology.
This is a global challenge. I think it's fair to say that this revolution we're experiencing, and we're just about now to, I think, embark on the fourth very significant revolution driven by the technologies I've spoken about. That is resulting in disruption of everything.
This is CVM Live. We go to a break ahead of news from overseas.
All registered voters in St. Andrew Northwestern and the Norman Gardens Division in Kingston East and Port Royal will be allowed 3 hours off to vote on Election Day, March 5. Voters will use the Electronic Voter Identification System, EVIS. To find out where to vote, call the Electoral Office of Jamaica, 1-888-991-8683. This is a message from the Electoral Office of Jamaica. Free and fair elections. It's up to you.
Boost your immune system. Water can flush toxins and help you recover faster from illnesses like colds and flu.
Welcome back. Time now for our regional and international news. And for that, we go to our reporter, Nika Lewis.
The government of Barbados has expressed concern that citizens of Haiti have to obtain visas in order to travel to some CARICOM member states, although it is a member of the regional integration movement. Barbados has always thought that this was a little inequitable and discriminatory, according to Prime Minister Frondell Stewart, as he was speaking at the 19th intersessional meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM, which was wrapping up in Port-au-Prince this week. The Prime Minister argued that the visa requirement was an anomaly in CARICOM arrangements. Now to news on the international scene. A man is reported to have shot himself outside the White House in Washington, according to the Secret Service. It tweeted that agents were responding to a report of a person who allegedly suffered a self-inflicted gunshot wound outside the north fence.
Meanwhile, severe storms have battered the U.S. eastern seaboard and left at least 6 people dead. Here's the BBC.
Heard this crack. It was like a shotgun crack from far away. And I'm looking and looking. I walk maybe 4 houses down. And the tree, it not only fell, it fell directly across the street.
All my kids' school got canceled today. Our power is out. Not much to eat at home, so I'm trying to get to the store. We just found out the store is closed.
Still in the U.S., police in the U.S. state of Michigan have arrested a student suspected of shooting dead his parents when they came to pick him up for spring break. James Eric Davis Jr. is suspected of gunning down his mother and father in his dormitory a day after he went to hospital for a drug-related issue. The victims are Diva Davis, 47, and James Eric Davis Sr., 48, according to television station Wilkes. They were shot on the 4th floor of Campbell Hall, according to police.
And those were the top regional and international stories this evening.
Judge Justice Brian Sykes was this week confirmed as Chief Justice after weeks of heated discourse over his unprecedented temporary appointment. That extra from Nika Lewis.
Justice Brian Sykes was on Thursday sworn in as Chief Justice at King's House, putting an end to mounting pressure on the government from many sectors, including the judiciary. As is the custom, Justice Sykes was also presented with the Order of Jamaica and the Order of Distinction.
Our decisions have been universally accepted by Jamaicans. We have been criticized, but criticism does not necessarily mean non-acceptance. It shows at the very least persons are interested in what is happening in the courts. Now, this is an important time in our history, and there has been a universal call for improvement of our legal processes and legal systems. The foundations for change were laid with the introduction of the Civil Procedure Code by the then Chief Justice, the Honorable Mr. Justice Lindsley Wolff, and that has reduced trial time considerably in the Supreme Court. The Honorable Mrs. Justice Zayla McCullough, Chief Justice retired, spearheaded a number of initiatives such as sentence reduction days, practice directions dealing with video link evidence, advanced sentence indicators, a fast-track gun court, establishment of a commercial court, an insolvency court, and criminal case management designed to increase efficiency of the courts. The Honorable Prime Minister spoke about resources, and it needs to be highlighted that in this year's budget there has been a reduction overall of $32 billion. I think that was the figure. So we're operating with less this year than last year. But within that, it's the other way around. But within that, the judiciary has received support in terms of the 4 additional judges for the Supreme Court. We'll bring our complement up to 40. The additional judges for the Court of Appeal, 22 judicial clerks, 10 parish judges, and all of those have been commitments by the government, by the executive during this budget cycle.
The government is committed to the independence and effectiveness of the judiciary. In my previous statement, I emphasized that the independence of the judiciary is paramount. For us to transform the society for the benefit of all Jamaicans, there has to be the executive will and the judicial will. The government must exercise its desire for an evolved justice system within the framework of our long-held and proud tradition of judicial independence.
Today we can take pride in our ability to accept responsibility, to reconcile differences, and take actions which clearly demonstrate that the well-being of the nation is paramount in our decisions. Honorable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, your appointment today speaks to the confidence that is reposed in your ability to faithfully and effectively discharge the mandate of the office of Chief Justice. I do believe that those who have ears to hear and minds to reflect are fully assured that you will perform your duties in a way that brings credit to your administration and satisfaction to the society at large.
Chief Justice Sykes has vast experience in the court system, where he commenced, as you have just heard, his career as a temporary clerk of courts. He moved through the system, was appointed as Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, and subsequently appointed as a puisne judge in 2005. Up to January 2018, he was assigned to the Commercial Division of the Supreme Court. That court was established over the years as a hierarchy of the judiciary, including my predecessor, Chief Justice Wolf, recognized the need to offer a high level of service to commercial customers, also bearing in mind that investors and potential investors needed the assurance of an expeditious service. During my tenure, I took note of international surveys such as the Doing Business Index, and the complement of judges of that division was increased from 1 to 3. I am very pleased to say that the judges assigned to that division, past and present, including the Honorable Chief Justice Sykes, have given excellent service, at times exceeding expectations.
Nika Lewis, CVM Live.
And with that, we take a break on Live Extra, our first half hour every Saturday, where we expand on selected stories of the news week. More when we come back.